Science.
Testing. Hello. My name is David Hale, and this is One Hale of a Podcast. Today I have Jared Velasquez and Tommy. I don't know Tommy's last name.
Tommy G.
Have you ever been in love, Tommy?
Yes, I have, David.
Have you ever been in love, Jared?
Yes, I have.
Did you ever feel a little bit different when you fell in love?
Yeah, towards the beginning, I felt very different.
You know, that's super interesting you say that, because I just read this article about hormonal changes when falling in love. Now, these hormonal changes are kind of weird. They're kind of wonky. So based on this study done by Donatella Marziti
That's amazing.
It's a beautiful name.
and
Tommy's a beautiful
Domenico.
We should pass the laptop for the names only to us.
Here, read the names. You read the names.
All right. So the study is by Donatella Marziti and Domenico Canale.
So basically, this study was done measuring hormonal changes in a group of 24 subjects of both sexes.
Was it like 12 and 12 or was it mixed ratio?
Yeah, I think it was 12 and 12, and they measured people who fell in love within the previous 6 months, or they were in a relationship at that point.
With each other or like...
No,
Just
in
like
general.
whoever, just in general. Basically, what they found was that with the people that recently fell in love within the past 6 months or past few months or so, their hormonal levels were far, far, far higher than people who had been in a long-lasting relationship or people who were like not in love. But all hormonal differences were eliminated 12 to 24 months later. So it's even longer than I initially thought. It was a year to 2 years later. So it like screws up your hormonal levels for up to a year to 2 years.
It's interesting.
But the weird thing, this is the thing that I found most interesting about this article, was the fact that testosterone levels were lower in men when they're in love, and they're significantly higher in women during that same period.
I wonder why it goes down whenever you go into a relationship.
That's what I'm wondering.
I wonder if
That's-
like because you're simping over like your girl.
Simping?
I guess like
because
simping.
life is just punishing you for being happy. You would think like testosterone, right? Drive, like obviously like to get girls. Obviously like drive like some the
It's
kind
gotta
of
be like
hormone
a priority
that's
shift
like,
in your brain, maybe.
that's like why would it go down whenever you get into a relationship?
Because
Shouldn't it?
you're probably
I would-
you probably wouldn't need to show your masculinity as much because you're already like secured with a girlfriend.
Pretty interesting though. Well, but you just started. Are you really secured?
Well, I mean,
Not
I
me.
guess you have like that bliss, like that I
guess that's true.
What's the term called when
That's
you're first in a
true.
relationship? The honeymoon period.
Yeah.
Honeymoon period, yeah.
So I guess that like
It's interesting.
that could be because you kind of ignore everything.
But your testosterone levels, I guess, return back to normal levels once you're in that, like, long-lasting relationship. Once you're at that point where you're kind of past all the, like, lovey-dovey
Yeah.
period.
That's like a long lovey-dovey period. Like it said a year and a half.
That's about, like, the average. I mean, I guess it depends
could,
on
yeah.
people, but it can last up
pretty
to 2
objective.
years.
Whoa.
And maybe it's, like, over, but your levels still got to return even after you get over that, like, feeling. But that affects a lot of things, all those hormone shifts can screw up your digestive system. It can screw up your train of thought, your acne.
No, you totally think differently. Like totally,
Yeah.
100%. Because whenever you get in, like yes, you just have like love clouds. You know, you're like looking through love goggles. You can see no wrong. She does no wrong. Like all that stuff, kind of, I guess, to like a certain degree. But
To an
obviously, you spend more time with them over like your friends, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, obviously that disappears after a while. So I guess that
Yeah.
does make a lot of sense.
It's got to deal with, like, how your brain deals with those changes, I guess.
Well, the
Just,
crazy thing
like,
is, I thought at first
stimuli.
it was like that's why people break up is because your hormone levels are returning. But if it's like after a year and stuff like that, that's like not like that's like rare to have like a relationship that's over like a year now.
And I guess, like, if people break up and they're thinking, like, okay, they don't love me anymore, It's probably not that. It's probably that your hormones are just changing back to regular levels. And
Yeah.
you're just comfortable with each other at that point, to where it's not like
Yeah,
you're not trying to show off anymore.
Yeah, and they're not either, probably. And
Yeah.
you probably feel that's
That's where the
feel
real
like,
test
You feel like
comes.
there's a disconnect, but there's not. You guys are just like,
Used to each other, which isn't bad. It's just like,
you just have to figure it out.
I guess probably
Yeah.
like
You have to know that that's not a bad
that's probably
thing.
where like social media plays a part, where it's like you see new relationships and people are like overcompensating because it's just starting.
Yeah,
So I guess
and like goals, relationship goals. You see all this stuff like relationships, people in relationships being all like perfect.
Yeah,
all these
it's
things
like
on social media, and you see that, and you're like, why are we not like that?
that's got me thinking now. Now that like we know this information, how does that affect what we do in the future? Like, do you think that if someone knows and actively knows what's going on in their brain, will that affect how long this period lasts? Will that affect how quickly you get over a breakup? Because you're like, hey, this is all scientific stuff in my head.
Or do you
Can I,
think
like-
it can even affect like how a relationship can actually do better, rather than in previous
Interesting.
relationships where you didn't know this and you think there's a disconnect whenever your hormone levels start going back to normal?
So is this the key to
And then-
long-lasting relationships?
Yeah, so maybe like this knowledge, it can help. Obviously, it's like objective, but like it can probably, because if you sit there and you're like, I feel like something's wrong. It's like not the same. Well, yeah, of course it's not the same, because scientifically, I'm just readjusting.
But
Like,
then you do a test where it's like you do the same thing, except you have the guys take testosterone, like to like make up for the lost testosterone.
I wonder
So
what
it's
that
like-
would
What
change.
that would
Exactly.
do.
If it's
Especially
like
in the
if it's like the
relationship, too.
mindset, or if that honeymoon phase, or like the guy's just like a complete like rage monster, like
Yeah.
They just go bonkers.
He just like cheats
like
on
not
her
even like a
simultaneously.
like not even like a sweetheart. It's just like he's just always like he just treats you like a bro, like off the bat. Like I wonder if that's like, well then your hormone levels would be high too, right? Or would it balance it out if you
Depends
take
what hormones, I guess.
They went into specifics on which hormones, but I'm not a scientist, so I have no idea like what those specific hormones are. But it changes 3 specific types. I might as well just read what they are for people who are interested.
Like me, I'm interested, to be honest.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because
This
it's
is-
like what if you compensate for what's being
Yeah,
lost?
what if you?
This is what I watch. That guy Derek, More Plates More Dates. He talks about all this stuff because he's like an absolute like studious scholar on like hormones and stuff because of steroids. And
Here we
stuff.
go.
You have to learn how to balance it and what they do.
Pituitary,
Pituitary.
adrenal, and gonadal or gonadal.
Gonad.
Gonad.
Gonadal.
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 Probably butchering this.
Butchering. You butchered that one too.
So do they measure people who are in love by like the opinion, or like does the science tell you if they're in love?
Hormone levels, probably.
I think they let the people kind of classify themselves as in love.
As
or not
in
in
love.
love.
Oh, okay, that makes a
Because
lot more sense. That'd be
Yeah.
interesting though if it's like a certain level where it's like
It could.
you could like prove
Which is-
someone's
which is-
scientifically not in love.
And that
That'd
would be
be really
interesting
messed up.
because it'd be objective, because you could have someone who's like a sociopath and
Yeah.
can't.
Well,
you know?
speaking of like sociological stuff, they mentioned down here that some people tried to prove that love temporarily diagnosed people with OCD. You're like constantly thinking about that person.
That's
It's like
true.
obsessive.
That's honestly a really interesting.
But they
topic.
couldn't like prove that it did. But I think there's a lot of signs that it could correspond, especially if you have a history of it.
Yeah.
Like if you don't have any history of OCD, it can't like diagnose. Like you can't be like, oh, this person caused me to catch OCD.
catch OCD.
But like
OCD 19.
the OCD pandemic, everyone's
Oh
like
no!
freaking.
Where's my OCD booster?
Everything's organized. I'll ask people listening to this, now that you know this information, that like love changes your hormonal levels, but it wears off over time. Maybe that'll help prevent people from overthinking. Like, I wonder if she still likes me or
because
not.
I chronically overthink.
Yeah.
Like it's outrageously a problem.
I also chronically overthink.
And like,
The
I would hope that
listeners.
you guys tell David, just because it's interesting, and I kind of want to hear about this and see if it'll help, because, I mean, maybe it'll help me finally get a girl.
No, I've
But,
got like the holy trinity of bad stuff going on right now. Like, now I know this information. I've got no game, and I overthink. So this is like not a good combination for me at the moment.
Nah, this is a
I've
good
got no
combination
game.
because now you'd be like, alright.
Hey, you're scientifically into me.
Anyways, we could go on talking about this stuff forever. Hopefully, you guys learned something about yourself in this podcast. Maybe you can take this information and, like, not be as upset about a past breakup, or just have a better understanding of how your brain works.
Yeah,
because it's
just how
so
everything
common.
works.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Hopefully, this was as good as the paper. And yeah, my name's David.
My name's Jared.
My name's Tommy.
It's science.